What's up? What's up? And welcome to another episode of The Wild Way Home. A conversation that has come up quite frequently lately has been that of hard conversations, or rather, how to have them. But I think the underlying question that people have around how to have hard conversations is why they're not having them. So it's more about why don't we bring them up? Why are we avoiding them? And less about how to actually make it work. In many situations, if you're avoiding a hard conversation, it's because of fear. So fear could be you're afraid of what the outcome is going to be, or if history continues to repeat itself, it could be a situation that you are anticipating that you already know the outcome and you're trying to prevent that. So, in either instance, having hard conversations, it's simply about being direct, speaking with intention, and doing it from a good place. That's it. There is no controlling how something lands. There is no necessarily right way to do it. If you're giving somebody feedback, you can tell them that they are important to you, that this is important, that this is something that hurt you. It's important in communication dynamics that we don't say, you did this and you made me feel that way, because that's attacking. But if we share how things affected us, if we have a direct conversation about our lens, how we feel, how we are coping with something, you're allowed to bring that up. And we do not have to, and we cannot control how that lands on anybody else. We can't control somebody else's reaction. And a lot of the times in these conversations that I've been having with women, it's an attempt to control the result. So I want to have this conversation so that insert outcome here. And in a healthy relationship, you're able to have hard conversations, difficult conversations that bring you closer together. But in many instances where things are dysregulated, that's not the case. And over time, you've seen that if I bring up my needs, if I bring up how something affected me or something that's important to me, I get punished. Something bad happens. Insert outcome here that you're trying to avoid. And so, in those cases, and in my experience, there would be times where I just stopped bringing things up altogether. But if I really thought about it, that told me everything about the relationship that I needed to know to begin with. I was in a situation where I was pushing down my needs. I was quieting my voice because that was the price of peace. And so if you look at it from that lens, you are modifying yourself, you are sacrificing yourself to make this work. And that's the bigger picture pattern and topic that I want to talk about today. It's not about how to communicate better. You've probably already learned 1,000 different ways to communicate. You've probably brought up things in 10 different ways, but you got the same outcome. So, what I want to focus on in this episode is less about the techniques and more about understanding yourself to the point where you can understand and even see the things that you're doing that maybe you haven't noticed before. Because the secret there is once you notice what you're doing, you have an awareness. Once you have an awareness, you now have a choice. And that's the hard part is when it comes to choice, when we have this awareness, and maybe you already know, if you are in something that doesn't make you happy, that you know sacrifices yourself, why do you stay? Why do you continue sacrificing yourself? I'm not saying that there's a right answer and a wrong answer. You just need to know the answer to that question for yourself. Because if you decide ultimately that this is where I am going to be long term, then you are actively making an agreement with yourself that the cost of peace long term is myself. I am okay with that. And so then you need to work through that. But then just know that you're always going to be internally resisting it because that's how incongruence works. That's how not getting your needs met works is your body, your mind, your nervous system will always try to get its needs met. So you are going to be in a state of discomfort until you make a change. And in many cases, so I stayed just under what it would have taken for me to leave as far as pain level for years because it was something that was really uncomfortable, but it was tolerable. And it escalated, but I was desensitized and the tolerance goalpost moved. And that's how things happen over time. So you may be in something for 10, 15, 20, 40 years, and you've been at this level of discomfort that you're familiar with, but it either takes a lot more pain, something really big to make you leave, or it takes you overcoming the cost of change. So that's the first option, is if you ultimately decide that this is where you are going to be, you have to come to terms with all of this discomfort, this dissonance is going to be within myself. But more often than not, I have seen that that choice is less of a choice and you're more choosing to be indecisive, which in and of itself is a choice to stay where you're at because the cost of change is too great. And then eventually, when you're ready, you will move. Or eventually, when something gets bad enough, you will move, but not before that because the price is too high. So take that, or you decide, I am done. I am taking my life in my own hands, and I am going to build the life that is congruent with me. I'm going to start putting me first. I'm going to start voicing my needs. I'm going to stop abandoning myself. I'm going to stop second guessing. I'm going to pursue and attract a secure love. And within that, I'm going to be secure in myself. And this is all the precursor for the ability to have direct conversations. It's not that you can't have direct conversations, it's what you're afraid of. And so it's really not about the conversation itself, it's about the internal dialogue that's happening as you are contemplating that conversation. So I hope that makes sense. Now, when we approach a hard conversation, there are a few things that we can do to assess and reflect internally. How am I feeling about this? Why don't I want to have this conversation? Well, number one, what am I afraid of happening? Write it out. What's the worst case scenario in my head that I am already playing? And that's probably why I've been putting it off. Write down how long you've been putting off this conversation, how long it's been running in the back of your mind unchecked. The next step is, what do you want out of this conversation? Do you want to be heard? Do you want a solution? Do you want a specific outcome? So there is being heard, in which case, by you just sharing your end of whatever's happening for that conversation, you check the box, it's a win. So there's being heard, there's finding a solution. So figuring out a common ground of, let's go back and forth and come to an agreement together for what a solution is. And I'm open to any. And number three is, you're looking for a specific solution. So that means I have this one thing in mind. This is my boundary. This is my barrier. We need to have a hard conversation. This is me laying down the ground rules. And if that's the one that you're bringing to the table, if you are setting a boundary like that in a hard conversation, you have to hold your end of the boundary, which means that it's something that you enforce by your own behavior. It's not something that you can say to somebody else, I'm setting a boundary. You better not do that. That's not a boundary. That's a demand. That's a request. And they can follow it or not follow it, but that you have no say in what they do. You can't control them. So, in that situation, if you want a specific solution, let's say this is a relationship, if it's that serious of a conversation, you're like, hey, my needs are never met. I have not been happy. It really hurts me when I try to bring up my feelings and everything gets turned around on me, and this and this and this. This is what I want moving forward. And you have to know in your head, if they don't agree to that, what are you willing to do? Is this finality for you? Is this a non negotiable for you? You must be willing to hold that boundary. Otherwise, what you're doing is, if you put all of that out there and you say, this is a must for me, this is a non negotiable, and then either they say no or they say yes and then they don't follow through on it, you're conditioning them that you accept when your needs are not met, when your demands are not met, when the thing that is the most important thing to you is not met. You're conditioning them that it is okay and you will still stay and you will be obedient and you will this, and this. Is that the life that you want to live? I don't know your relationship. I know why a lot of women come to this channel. A lot of women have in common with me the toxic relationship patterns, the abusive relationship patterns, the self abandonment, the not having your needs met despite what you've tried. In those situations, I will give you the advice that a police officer from Sarasota, Florida told me. I called and I said, "This is the situation. Can you just be around? Is there anything that you can do?" And they said, "No. It's a matter of making better decisions for yourself. And that is all that you can do. But you do have to decide. You have to make a choice to start making changes. And the cost of not changing is staying exactly where you are in the next 3, 5, 10 years with the same problems, with the same thoughts, with the same person, the same internal dialogue, the same fight internally going back and forth between self doubt and then feeling righteous blame where you're like, this is not okay, I should not be treated this way. So you have to begin making decisions for yourself. This is the concept of learned helplessness. Over time in relationships like this, we continue pushing down our needs, suppressing things. We learn that by having needs or by asking for something, it's bad. There is a negative result. You get negatively reinforced, which means the presence of like some aversive stimulus or some punishment. So you learn over time not to. You learn over time that you can't. You learn over time that, well, the door is wide open, but I can't leave. I can't tell anybody. I can't do anything. And that is learned helplessness because you can. All of the problems that we have are problems, but they're deal withable. You can leave at any time. The door is wide open unless somebody is physically holding you hostage. You can leave at any time. And I know there are really extreme cases. I was in a situation where there were finances being held against me. I was in a situation where I had taken out a 6-figure personal line of credit against my dad's assets. And I was told that if this, and this, then it would be made sure that that loan got defaulted on or didn't get paid back. So I stayed because I was like, this isn't even about me. This is about my dad's assets. This is if I fail and I can't do this, and this, my dad pays for it. And so for me, when I was in that situation, I stayed to be able to control that outcome. And then when it came down to it and it was just me and my finances, I walked away broke. I walked away not having a plan to start over. I knew what I wanted to do, but I had no money, no plan, and I felt like nobody was behind me. But the thing that we fear the most, the worst case scenario, is often not whatever really happens. And when I left, I was broke, but I had people in my corner who were going to war for me, who had my back that I didn't even plan on. And I share this with you because the reason that I did not leave up to that point was finances and what will I do and what will people think because I haven't told anybody about this. And at this point, what would people say? And if you are ever to change your situation, you must cross that bridge. That is the price of changing the situation at any point in time when you finally choose to. But just know that continuing to push the goalposts down the road and say, I'll do it when, insert milestone here. Life comes up, something else happens, it gets pushed back. A trip, somebody's birthday, somebody's wedding, the next financial milestone. I'll do it when I have this much money. I waited for all of those, and it took me 4 more years of my prime. And then you begin thinking about the sunk cost fallacy. You're like, well, I've put, my, I'm I'm old, not getting younger. I'm this many years old. Do I want to have a family? Do I want to have kids? Gosh, like maybe this is the best that it gets. Maybe I'm just asking for too much. And this is all the pattern talking. It has nothing to do with does it get better than this? And am I selfish for wanting more than being mistreated? That is the pattern talking because you have been in a situation where you've doubted yourself for so long. And so, the most direct thing that I can tell you is exactly what the police told me. It's about making better decisions for yourself and looking through the lens of do you trust yourself to figure out the next step forward? Do you trust yourself to be able to figure out how to make money? Do you trust yourself to figure out, I'm just going to tell people the truth I'm going to let the cards fall where they may. And yes, in the interim, it will be a little chaotic and I will have to figure some things out. But I will be able to step away from a life that I resent, from a life where I am unhappy, where I am disconnected from myself, and I will be able to step into the life that I've always dreamed of, that I've always wanted. I will be able to step into a relationship that is secure and healthy and treats me well and where I'm happy in. You just have to weigh the costs and the benefits. So all of that was a bit of a tangent from having a direct conversation and being able to set your boundary, but this is the place where most of these women that I'm talking to have been in. You're on the threshold. You know you don't want to be there, and yet you stay. So, my parting words for this episode is I know that it is scary. I know that you don't know what you're going to do. I know that finances are a huge factor. So, if you want an 18-page guide that walks you through that indecisive feeling that you had and also different financial options for you to be able to leave, go to my Instagram, createwithcaitlin_, and DM me Break the Loop. I will send you that guide. And in the meantime, let me know what you found the most helpful on this podcast so that I can make more content just for you.